Hey, what's up guys? So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at all of the new and recently updated radar detectors. Now, this is obviously a pretty interesting time. Coronavirus is out and about, so most of us are not. We're all hanging out at home here. And so this is kind of throwing a wrench into a lot of things. Most companies are not running at 100%, for example. They're running at different degrees of shutdown. We're seeing weird things on Amazon because radar detectors are not considered one of the essential items, so sometimes deliveries are being delayed to those, but that does seem to be getting better now. And with everything going on, I don't think this is necessarily the best time to be releasing brand new radar detectors, but there are a couple that were released just before all the shutdown stuff, and some that were actually released during the shutdown. So with that said, let's go ahead and start right off. Now, the big news, of course, is the introduction of the new Valentine One Gen2. This is a big update compared to the original. It's got a new design as well as a refreshed display. The performance is much better than the original, plus they've improved the BSM filtering as well. Bluetooth is now built into the detector instead of requiring an external accessory. The new Gen 2 is now RDD immune. It doesn't add GPS or multi-radar support though, so that is still missing. Now, the new V1 Gen 2 is more expensive than the original. It now retails for $499 instead of $399, so $100 more. Now, that said, because Bluetooth is built into the detector and you no longer have to buy the $50 external Bluetooth module to get the phone integration and GPS functionality, we could say, I guess, the new V1 Gen 2 costs $50 more than the original V1 Gen 1 plus the Bluetooth module. Now, with the whole coronavirus shutdown, though, the V1 Gen 2 is unavailable to purchase right now directly from Valentine One. They are, though, helping take care of customers who are affected with some of the initial issues that we've been seeing with the V1 Gen 2. Things like the detectors powering off and not being able to fully power back on, or the detectors that have display failures or malfunctions. And so people with some of the early V1 Gen 2s that are having problems, those detectors are being repaired right now, even though they're not selling new ones until they get completely back up and running. Now, Valentine is also planning on offering an updated concealed display designed to match the look and feel of the new V1 Gen 2. It's not out yet, and they don't have all the information available yet on their website, but one of the really cool things we're seeing is Squirrel Master on RDF is actually building his own custom concealed display for the V1. It features a nice multicolor screen. It's going to connect over Bluetooth directly to your V1, and it's going to display a ton of information, including the frequency of the signal, as well as all the stuff that you see on the V1's display itself. This is super cool, and it's definitely something that I'm interested in getting as well once it's ready and finished. They're also working on 3D printed cases for the concealed display, and it looks like it's basically going to be an improved version of the concealed display with a lot more information and functionality than the original Valentine one. Plus, some of the buttons on the display are going to be able to be used for things like muting the detector, switching between different logic modes, and things like that. Now, speaking of Bluetooth connectivity to the V1, the apps for the V1, V1 Driver for iOS and JBV1 for Android, both of those have been updated to support connectivity with the V1 Gen 2 as well. And those apps, again, are a great way to add in the GPS functionality that the V1 otherwise is lacking on its own. One other cool thing that I want to point out, though, besides the GPS stuff, is some of the new updates for the TMG integration with JBV1. You can have that app actually, of course, control and interface with your TMG laser jammers, and normally what happens when you get shot with laser is the alarms go off in your car, you slow down, and then you disable the jammers. You either disable them manually by pressing a button, or you have a timer that automatically shuts them off after 3 seconds, 4 seconds, whatever. There's a new feature that's now being built into JBV1 called brake force detection. The idea is when you get shot with laser and you slow down, it can use your phone's accelerometer to notice that, hey, you got shot with laser and you're hard on the brakes. Once you start letting off the brakes, the phone's accelerometer can detect that, and then it can automatically disable your TMG without you having to press any buttons or wait for the timer to automatically disable itself. So it gives you a little bit faster JTK, just relying on the fact that you're braking and then eventually let off, which is a pretty cool idea. I haven't seen this implemented in any other laser jammer, and I think it's actually pretty awesome. So that's something that's available now in JBV1 as well. Next, moving on to the Uniden R1 and R3. Those have been updated to firmware 1.53. This is a pretty minor update. There's just some changes to the display and the interface to make it a little bit more responsive. They made some changes to MRCD detection. They've improved the MRCD false alert filtering, but it has negatively affected MRCD detection range. And so this is a pretty minor update. I guess if you face a lot of MRCD, you probably don't want to use this update because it's going to impact your range so much. But if you don't face MRCD, it can be a nice little update just to improve the responsiveness when interacting with the detector. Next, moving on to Radenso. We've got two updates for the Radenso Pro M. The first update that came out was firmware version US21. The first change was a fix for laser detection. Pro M's used to false a lot with detecting laser, and so Radenso had actually had laser detection disabled altogether in the Pro M's. They've since fixed the falsing issue though, and so now they've re-enabled laser detection on the Pro M. The next thing was a pretty serious bug with the detector where sometimes you would drive around and it would automatically just reset itself and maybe disable certain settings such as Ka band detection, and people would find they're driving around and then all of a sudden the detector's running in a different mode and the settings are completely different than what they programmed it into. Now that said, luckily US21 introduces a fix for this as well, so this looks like it's been resolved as well. I haven't heard anybody reporting this issue since then, so hopefully it actually did the trick. There was also an issue where sometimes on the display you would see just random code displayed on the face of the detector, so they fixed that as well. US22 adds an additional little fix or two. The main fix is sometimes the detector, for example, when it would be detecting laser, it could actually throw a low voltage error on the Pro M and then cause the Pro M to shut down after being shot with laser. It seems like this kind of varied depending on which power source the detector was plugged into, but nevertheless, US22 is going to resolve this low power / shutdown issue that we saw on the Pro M. Plus, it also adds an update for the red light camera and speed camera database as well. So if you're running a Pro M, I would definitely recommend going ahead and updating to the latest firmware version US22. Now, finally, Cobra has actually released not one, but two new radar detectors. The first one is the Cobra RAD380. It's a basic, simple $100 detector. Cobra's advertising that it has the best in-class range. Not that $100 detectors really usually ever have great range, but they're saying it has the best in-class range. And they also said that they've improved the BSM filtering, or what Cobra calls the IVT filtering. Hopefully it's actually pretty good. Maybe they're using some of Escort's technology in the Cobra and helping to improve the BSM filtering, so hopefully it's better. The detector doesn't have any sort of GPS or Bluetooth functionality, so it's a pretty basic and simple detector, which is kind of what you'd expect for the $100 price point. Now, Cobra has also released another new detector. This is the RAD480i. This is a $150 detector, and it features a different design than the 380. It's also got an improved display, for example, but one of the biggest advantages of this one over the 380 is that it integrates Bluetooth as well, so that you can pair it with your phone, run the Cobra iRadar app, and then you're able to share alerts in real time with other Cobra or actually Escort drivers as well, because iRadar and Escort Live, they share all their alerts back and forth. It doesn't look like, though, when you run iRadar, it adds features like maybe manual GPS lockouts like we've seen with some of the other Cobra or Escort apps. It doesn't look like this has been added here to the 480, but it looks like the main update here is just the shared alerts with other drivers if you're running Cobra iRadar on the 480. Interestingly enough, both of these two detectors were released after we all started going into quarantine and lockdown and stuff. So I'm just assuming, of course, that this is something that they were already about to release and then it was just kind of unfortunate timing and everything. But these are two new radar detectors that Cobra has released. I don't have any immediate plans of testing them. We kind of don't really go driving around right now. There's not a lot of cars on the road to do BSM testing and stuff. But maybe once this stuff kind of starts to calm down, maybe the next time I go out and do long-range testing with different radar detectors, which I guess may be when Thea comes out, maybe I can toss in one of these new Cobras and see how they compare in terms of performance. And maybe I'll throw in some other less expensive detectors too. But anyway, yeah, Cobra has released two new detectors as well. So with that said, that's the latest. It's not a ton of stuff. I mean, again, it's probably not the optimal time to be releasing new radar detectors, but it's good to see that we're seeing some continued updates and improvements for all the radar detectors that are already out and available. So there we go. There's your latest update as far as all the new and recently updated radar detectors. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys are doing well at home, and I'll see you in the next video.